Hi, everyone. We're coming on a little bit late. Substack, you guys got some work to do on the user interface, but so happy to have you joining me. Paul, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Liz. Thank you for all you do and appreciate your
Ab-
community.
Absolutely. Thank you for all you've done. Thank you for running. I'm really excited to kind of dive into your really impressive background in politics and organizing. For anyone that is not familiar with Paul, he is running to be the state representative in Illinois' 12th, which is Lakeview, Lincoln Park, bits of Gold Coast.
Near North and Old Town.
Okay. So my favorite places to eat and drink and shop in that district. So I think it's an area that a lot of people are familiar with in the city. It reminds me a lot of just the importance of creating a place that is affordable but that people want to be in, and sometimes those things can be diametrically opposed, but I think with good governance it's not so. So yeah, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your background, what got you to this place, and why you decided to run in this moment.
Yeah, thank you. So I began my career running a program that helped more than 800 students get into and through college at a place called the Harlem Children's Zone, and creating opportunity for young people and better futures for communities is always my why and what drives me. But I went off to work on President Obama's reelection campaign because I wanted to save the Affordable Care Act, and that allowed me to end up getting to work in his Department of Education and eventually the White House, where I learned to get things done at the highest level of government. But then we know what happened at the end of 2016, and big change in Washington. An orange fella took over, and the silver lining was coming back to the Midwest and uh, deciding I wanted to get deeply involved in connecting people to action for how we were going to protect our democracy and our state and to fight back. And so got to work on Governor Pritzker's campaign and started with some other exceptional activists building the indivisible Lakeview, Lincoln Park, Old Town chapter. And over 8 years, we've gone from having meetings where there was like one person there and they had to listen to my exuberance be like, you can make phone calls or, to knock on doors with us in Michigan and Wisconsin to be building a powerhouse. We have thousands of people that are
Wow.
taking part in the work that we do now. And I've been leading an organization called Rust Belt Rising over 5 years that trains Midwest Democrats to message more effectively and connect with working people, organize to win, to rebuild the blue wall, to win in communities, where we haven't been and we can be better trusted. And so with this open seat, I decided to run because I think this is a moment that requires proven fighters, people that are going to maximize a seat like this to do the most good, to focus on our affordability and just both protecting us in Illinois, but also nailing the basics and driving excellence in our schools and best supporting our schools to be as strong as possible. Bringing down housing costs, healthcare costs, and a lot of these things that are tough for us right now. And so it's a real neighborhood campaign that we've been organizing and really proud of it. And I see it would not be my seat, but it would be our neighborhood seat to advance good policy to make people's lives better.
I love to hear that. We have a candidate you might be familiar with. Patrick Hanley is
My
running.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I'm sure I thought that for sure your paths must have crossed.
Obama. Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
thank
I
you.
think I feel the same way about that seat here. That like we really feel like that's a true representation of the community. He's worked with us. He's organized with us. We know that the things that he says he's for, he will get to Springfield and do because we've seen him do it here. We've seen him fight arm in arm with us for a variety of issues that activists are passionate about in our state. So I'm just going to dive right in. Anybody that is familiar with me talking about the Illinois General Assembly, um, I have to like keep myself in check. I get often very frustrated with the people that are representing us at the state level. As I've worked on gun violence prevention legislation, it has felt so flabbergasting at times when you just see like we have a supermajority in both houses. I came from being an activist in New Jersey where we had passed so much foundational gun violence prevention legislation that when we had our moms demand activism days, we just like had a picnic and thanked our lawmakers. They did everything. They had done everything they possibly could do in the state. And to contrast that with coming here and fighting so hard for years to pass like basics, like closing DV loopholes and things like that. And I'm going, why is this? Are they just lazy? They don't like to work.
Mm,
And then through this sort of primary process and seeing different types of people run, I realize the answer is because there's a lot of people sitting in Democratic seats that aren't Democrats. And so they don't want to work really hard to pass foundational progressive legislation because that's not why they were put there. And that's not who they are at their core. And I think your race is a really good representation of this. So if you could give us an overview of your, most salient opponent and yeah, what his background is.
yeah, I think this is a five-alarm fire for Democrats because my primary opponent, has just vicious Republican writings, calling for repealing the Affordable Care Act, calling my former boss, President Obama, incapable and a mistake and failed. And then this person was silent on politics through these Trump years, which is unthinkable to me, and then declared for office in this Democratic primary as a self-funder, with his family putting in $500,000 to try to buy this seat. And I just think, wow, I don't know how anyone could want to represent a district they've had no involvement in. And,
Yeah.
in these years that compelled all of us to do more, where, I've been bringing neighbors together to take action. And, you talked about Patrick, uh, we've been organizing, with Indivisible, with Rust Belt Rising, thousands of people going to Michigan, to Wisconsin, to flipping our nearby seats, passing good legislation, protecting legislation. We really need people who have been doing that work. And so this is a big concern for me. But again, I do feel like we have great neighborhood support, but it's really important for people to, I think, ask in any race, like, okay, what have you been doing in these years? What change have you made locally? Because I think to ultimately get legislation passed, when we talk about those, gun safety measures, you need to know the policy, but you also need to build coalition.
Yeah.
And so my work with Indivisible, I think, is really important because we
Yeah.
have to raise the saliency of issues to get priorities over the line. And that is an issue where I want to go farther. Representative Bob Morgan's a friend, and like we've been talking about different ways that we can push gun manufacturers, on some of the key safety pieces and how we use technology. But there's also more we can do to keep guns out of the wrong hands, and
Yeah.
and then when we look at domestic violence pieces and different ways that we need to better use information to keep people safe, and as well as taking on the traffickers, some of the networks that are flooding our streets again. So, overall, wherever you are, really look for what people have been doing in years that called us and that do every day, to do more. And I think bring a skepticism to those who started speaking out when they declared for office,
Yeah.
because I believe the public servant you would be is best predicted by the one you've been.
Yes, yes, and I just like to play this out for everybody. I know this type of representative that this person will get into office and be, and they will slow walk things, they will vote against things. We have a Senate president who I used to actually and the speaker I think pushes a little harder um on and because the reps are like every 2 years you really have to kind of like get on board with the agenda or not, whereas I think in the Senate people can kind of like sit in things, but it is still dangerous to have like a basically I call them a Republican in Democrats clothing in this seat. what happens is the leader of the House and the Senate, they activists or anyone, the people of Illinois come with what they want their agenda to be. Like, it's crazy that we don't have universal pre-K.
Mhm.
Zoran got it done in like a month. I know that's a city versus a state, but it's crazy that we
De
don't,
Blasio got it done.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's crazy that we don't have paid family leave. Like, that is insane. We are a very wealthy state. We are a very blue state. And I think it's our instinct to blame Pritzker, blame Harmon, blame Welch. They, while it looks like they have the votes, they don't. They don't have the votes to get these things done. If they did, they would do them. Of course, Pritzker would want to run on the boldest policy ever. And I contrasted, I spend a lot of time comparing us to Michigan and Minnesota, where they're able to pass things with slim one-seat majorities. We are not able to do that because we have too many non-Democrats sitting in Democrat seats. And it's very easy. Like, you can register and say that you're anything. And if you have enough money and you have enough, if you run a big enough campaign, I think so often people, they sit out the primaries, and we also see maybe people will come out, especially Lakeview, Old Town. Those are places where people are really politically involved, and they'll come out because they want to vote in that big U.S. Senate primary.
Mhm.
We see Democrats roll off the ballot at a rate of 80%. So only 20% of Democrats fill out their whole ballot. For Republicans, it's the opposite.
Mm,
All
mhm.
80% of them roll out. So, like, and maybe they need to do more research, especially in a primary, or they, are have stronger opinions. But what I really worry about are active and involved people getting in there, voting for Juliana Stratton, and then rolling off the ballot because they just don't know and they don't want to make the wrong choice and they haven't done the research. So, this is where it's so important, if you live in Chicago, to tell people about this race, to tell people about Illinois 12, to tell people about Paul Kendrick, and and let them know that this is like this is how essentially Republicans build power in Illinois, is through these seats, and we can't let them. So because you are going to be the right type of Democrat and you are going to go in there and fight hard for policy, what is kind of on your wish list of things that you want to see done first when you get to Springfield?
Yeah. So some of the things that I want to do, I mean, I think we have a crisis in housing, and I want to pass a bill called the Missing Middle that keeps municipalities from banning kind of housing for working people, duplexes, threeplexes, fourplexes. Also, uh, prevent municipalities from banning you from being able to do accessory dwelling units. So adding a granny flat, like we need to bring more housing online. We're bringing the lowest amount of housing online of any major metropolitan area in the country, and that is why rent, being able to buy, is like totally out of control
Yeah.
in my district and beyond. So I think that's a key cost that we have to address. Um, like I said, education is kind of always very close to my heart, and some of the things that I want to do there. I mean, I want to really work with educators and others to find a best way to pass a bill asking every municipality to have a plan on banning cell phone use during instructional time, because it's one of the easiest ways we can improve educational outcomes. I'm on a local school council, Lincoln Park High School, and we did that, and even the students agree. Okay, I'm more focused now. I like this is better for
Yeah.
me. But I also want, I think we need better early literacy screenings to understand, when young people children are off track, because you
Mm.
have to nail the literacy piece for the foundation of everything that follows. I think there's more we need to do on protecting Illinois and our data, and because ultimately, LGBTQ people, women are all being targeted by this federal government. I mean, they want
Mm.
to ban mifepristone. I mean, I think we need to protect every bit of data of those who help people be able to access abortion. We need to increase access in our state as a beacon for those coming. I think there's more we can do on the criminal and civil accountability for ICE officers. I think we should protect more public places like parks, but also being able to establish, yeah, greater accountability and really push the envelope. I like to say, if we're not getting sued, then we're not doing it right. Like
Yeah.
we gotta. These are unprecedented times, and we need to do unprecedented things to protect people from these lawless thugs and guys who are coming into our communities. So I think continuing to push forward on an agenda there. Yeah, and overall, I think supporting like community-based healthcare providers because we're going to lose more than 40 billion in Medicaid funds from this Trump administration. And so we need to have solutions that get people healthcare. And one of the things I want to do, and this is where it helps to have a state rep who served in the federal government, is I'm going to get a little wonky just real quick. Is relax more of the Medicaid re-enrollment rules because the BBB's cost savings are predicated on tripping people up administratively. So if we better use data that we already have that lets us know you're eligible, then you can just stay eligible and you don't need to do, every bit of paperwork we can take away is absolutely vital. So someone doesn't show up, in the emergency room and then been told, no, you don't have health care. And so that's one of the ways we have to fight. It's not sexy, but it's really, those are the kinds of things that are important. And then, yeah, and then keeping moving forward an aggressive gun safety agenda. And we already talked about that a bit, what some of those pieces entail. But, there is more we can do to get guns out of the wrong hands and to make ourselves safer. I think the biggest dividing line right now with Democrats, I think to some extent, it isn't just about moderate progress. It's about fighter or not fighter. It's about push the envelope or no push the envelope. It's about maximize or sit on the seat. And so, I appreciate what you said. And for me, I just want to work, and build coalitions to get as much done as possible and to really make Illinois a leader. We need to talk about environmental issues. There's more we got to protect because
Yeah.
of all the ways they've targeted us. So just pushing forward on all these issues.
And it seems like, given your background, your experience in coalition building, and your experience in policy, just makes you extremely well suited for this type of role. I think that you can tell that you have the spirit of a fighter, but it does take more than that, especially in a challenging environment, and especially even with people that we would consider actual Democrats, right? Everybody, when you get to Springfield, everybody has an agenda and a legislative priority list and a whiteboard and things they want to get done, and it is all about working together and finding people who you can align with to push things forward. The politics of politics like never cease to amaze me, and I think it's important to have like the right ethos about that, but also be able to work within that. You have to. You can't just blow things up, right? It seems that you're really well suited for this moment in time, and it gives me a lot of hope. I think people feel really hopeless in times like this, and I'm often asked like, how do you feel about the future of our republic? And it's people like you that make me feel good about it, that you could be doing anything. You have this incredible background. You're really, revered in your community, and you could be doing anything. But instead, you are taking the time to continue to make your community better, to like double down, right? You're already doing all of the things. You could have continued just, making serving on the school board and then Indivisible and Rust Belt Rising. Like you could have just continued that. Anyone would say that you are doing more than enough to help advance the goals that we have for our state and our country. But it's really incredible to see smart, dedicated, real, kind people wanting to do more and wanting to really invest at this local and hyper important level. The bills that you will work on and pass are the ones that impact people's lives the most. I often say that. I think we tend to be very focused on federal politics, very focused on who's in the
Mhm.
White House.
Yeah.
But it's here and it matters even in a state like Illinois. And I hope we've made that case over and
Yeah.
over.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I'm so glad, the way you explained it, I really loved because I do think it's important for us as we fight Trump, as probably anyone on this call is doing different things to fight MAGA. We also just have to look in the mirror and say, "Hey, is Illinois doing everything we can? And
Mhm.
what are the things ostensibly within our control that we can do more of?" And I think that is such an important point. And, it's like Connecticut has more gun safety, measures on the books than we do. New York does too. I guess sounds like New Jersey does too. So I'm not gonna let that stand. I
Right.
wanna compete. We
Yeah.
can do as much as you. I
And
would say, like, you know
we gotta, like, put our foot on the gas and pass a ton of bills.
Yeah.
We pass about 200 a year out of Springfield. Our peer states, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, California, pass about 8 to 900.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, and at this seat,
yeah, I got a
holds
whole like, a
You got everything.
phone book for the Illinois
Yeah.
girls and
Yeah.
you can't tell.
No, I mean, one thing that meant a lot to me was when, Representative Ann Williams, who's, like, a real environmental leader in Illinois, when she endorsed me, she said, "Well, you're the only person who's come to me advocating for things." And I just thought, "Wow, well, I appreciate that because that, I think, is predictive of who would go the extra mile because you don't need to be a state rep. Anyone can be pushing these issues. Anyone can talk to their legislature, and when you really care about those things, you do. And I think the fascists want us to feel hopeless. They
Yes.
want us to feel isolated. And Indivisible for me has always been a great chance to get people together in the basement of a bar, to make friends, to have a beer, to talk about things that are purposeful and effective. Um, and I appreciate you creating community, through the Substack, through Instagram, and then moving people to action, because that's what we need to do. In so many ways, we can feel isolated, powerless. Trump, that has always been his agenda to make us feel that way. But I think some of the best way that we can feel our own power, it is both, being out there, hands off Chicago, no kings, rapid
Yeah.
response, know your rights. There's important things we got to do to fight, and calling our senators and say, "Hey, stay strong on those 10 demands for
Yeah.
no DHS funding." So, Indivisible help move, Duckworth and Durbin on that. But when we push on state policy, we can feel those wins,
Mhm.
that you need when you're movement building,
Yeah.
and we make a better, safer, more affordable state.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that? There was like a big outcry online with the DHS funding that people were so convinced that Durbin was going to vote to continue to fund it because he had flipped on the ACA subsidies and voted to
Mm.
reopen the government. And then he kind of came out with a statement and surprised everyone. Did Indivisible have something to do with that?
We think so, but there are many people pushing on this. So, but Indivisible Chicago Alliance, I think is an amazing collection of activists, and our chapter is one chapter as part of it. I know leaders of ICA, had, I believe, met with them, and then we've just been telling everyone in the Daily Action, if you're not signed up for the Indivisible Chicago Daily Action, sign up for the Indivisible Chicago Daily Action. It's
How,
like
where do we go to do
invaluable.
so?
Uh, Go to Indivisible Chicago's website, which is or if you just Google Indivisible Chicago Daily Action, you'll get there. But
Okay.
indivisibleschicago.com, and then click on the Take Action,
Mhm.
or go down and click Daily Actions, and you get, two or three things every day you can do that are well thought out. But anyway, I don't know. We work in coalition, and many groups, and many people were pushing on them. So don't I'm not trying to give us credit. Like, it's a lot of people, but I think it was noteworthy that, like, earlier in that week, there were, like, we just didn't have a signal from Durbin and Duckworth of, like, where they were at. And like you said, like, is it going to be, "Oh, go along to get along. So it's give them the funding. Nothing we can do about it. They control the government." So,
Right, right.
or, yeah, I think they came out strong and said
Yeah.
no. So I think the key thing is we want to keep calling to keep them strong. The 10 demands for the guardrails are, like, pretty freaking basic. Yeah, like, it is, like, the least we can do with our leverage.
Yeah.
I wish I want to go farther and, to obviously
Yeah.
dismantle this whole ICE. But
Yeah.
some of the things in there are about, that they can't keep racially profiling, like,
Yeah.
and that it was just this like indiscriminate enforcement that we
Right.
saw in Chicago, that we see in Minneapolis, that we know is not going anywhere. And then they can't be masked and they have to camera, and like just starting to build in some kind of freaking accountability to this dystopian,
Right.
um, authoritarian mess. So we want to just keep them strong. Don't hand over the money without
Yeah.
that. You can't do that. What are you doing if you do that? And so, that's Indivisible's charge. And, I know other coalition members are pushing hard there too. And, but I think it was, again, I don't know where they would have landed without us, but it was noteworthy that we didn't know. And then they said, okay, we're
Yeah.
strong. And like, that's what you got to do. That's what, we can't assume these elected officials, just because they have D next to their name.
Right.
Going back to my earlier thing, like, we can't, there's both the like, are you with us ideologically, and are you willing to fight? Are you willing
Right.
to push the envelope? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Because I think that is the second dividing line that we've really seen, in my view, emerge in the second term for who gets the times that we're in and who doesn't.
Right.
Those rules don't apply.
I one time had, a member of the Illinois General Assembly tell me, "We're spiritually aligned."
What?
I would like to be legislatively aligned. We are
We are
not in a
strategically and
spiritual
tactically aligned.
relationship. The relationship
That is
is,
wild.
I vote for you and pay you
To get shit done.
to legislate. I don't really
My god,
care if we are spiritually
that's
aligned. So,
incredible.
yeah, like, this isn't about vibes, this is about what you're actually doing, your job.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a lot. But I think, in this time, I also try not to go too intense about this, because I don't want people to feel discouraged, and I don't want people
Yeah.
to say like, "Oh, well, are even in Illinois and the Democrats run it, it's a like, it makes people just be apathetic and
No,
say,
you helped pass the assault weapons ban. Like, we have
"Yeah,
examples of
yeah,
putting good laws on the books
yeah, it
because people
works if you
pass
push,
them.
it works if you work it." And I think we're also in this time, people are really waiting for, like, a white knight to come in and fix everything and just get us back to a place where we didn't really have to pay attention to politics anymore. And I Ken Martin often talks about this, that the way to get out of this, slide into authoritarianism is like at a tiny local level, running people everywhere, paying attention to every single seat and engaging where you are. I'm going to quote Gwen Walls, who would often say on the campaign trail, do the work that's in front of you. So if you live in Old Town, if you live in Lincoln Park, if you live in Lakeview, this is the work, it's in front of you. There's a person running for office, you can be a part of this campaign. I think people think there's this really high barrier to entry to get involved in politics. And like, if you're smart, and even if you're not, if you if you're engaged, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think that people that are watching this and engaging with this are really operating on like a high level of
Yes.
concern, and they know what's going on. You don't have to know everything, but if you want to like help and work for free, there is no barrier to entry. Like, people would love to have you participate in their campaign. People would love to have you knock doors, host a coffee, like get creative, do a food crawl. Like, we need your energy and ideas in the campaigns that you see. So if you're in Paul's district, or even if you're not, if you're in or around the district and like you want to plug in and help, how can people do that?
Thank you so much. Sign up at Illinois.com, paulforillinois.com. My name is Paul Kendrick. You can find me if you Google me that way. Sign up, and we have a lot of fun. We have a great group, and yeah, and whether you want to come knock some doors with us, that's easy to do, to ask people, what they care about, and just get to talk like neighbors, or whether you could want to make some phone calls from home, from wherever you are, if you're in the North Shore, whatever, wherever you are. There's a really key just to make sure that they know about me and our campaign, what we're fighting for, and that I'm running, in this last, we're under a month to go now. But like you said, yeah, meet and greets for, if you or a friend is in the district, are really key, because this district, so this is generally east of Halstead and Orleans. So it's the lakefront. So there's a lot of doors we can't knock. So people having meet and greets in the buildings have been a huge part of our organizing to just bring neighbors together. And you know what I love? This campaign is in many ways to me a vessel for neighbors getting to talk about our challenges and our future, because that's our way forward in America. We have to know each other. We have to have a coffee, have a glass of wine, have a beer, and or a seltzer water, and talk about, what can we build together, and
Yeah.
that's what our campaign has been all about. So, but it's a neighbor to neighbor campaign. So anyone on the North Lakefront, from Hawthorne above Belmont
Okay.
down to Huron,
Okay.
basically east of Orleans and Halstead, please let them know to vote for Paul Kendrick, that you have a candidate who, again, worked for President Obama, built the Indivisible chapter, knows policy, builds coalitions, will make the most change. Um, please ask them to vote. And I'm happy to connect and talk to anyone, because, yeah, as you say, Liz, I mean, it's, we have great chances to make change. We need not feel discouraged, and when we get people who bring passion and energy and have a record of results and of engagement and work, then we make a better government, and there's great policies that we can deliver in Illinois,
Yeah.
and it's part of how we fight back against all that we're facing at the federal level when we have people who've been fighting back.
Yeah. And given that you're up against this self-funder, how can people donate to your campaign? I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that really grinds
Yeah.
a lot of people's gears, and your $5, $50, $500 goes so far in a race like this. Like, as much as I was the largest grassroots fundraiser for Harris, and now I'm like,
Wow.
those those campaigns don't need your money. And my husband's like, "Stop saying that because you fundraise for them, you might again." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but this is the place to invest." Like, whatever
Yeah,
you
goes
felt
a
like
long way.
you were investing in that race because you cared so much, like, this is the place where a couple $100 goes so far. That's more lit, that's more buttons, that's more door knocking. Um, so
It's
we've got
vital.
the link in there.
Great plug. Yes, thank you. We've had more than 550 people contribute to our movement, and so would really love if you can too, because as Liz says, that powers. When we got to print this lit, the pump cards to hand
Yeah.
it out, and everything that we're doing to organize. I think we need campaign finance changes. I don't think it's a good system where one's opponent can just write a $500,000 check to try to buy a state legislative seat without ever feeling compelled to engage with the district before thinking that they should represent it. I don't think that's a great system, but we got a chance to win this, with your support. So if you go to paul4illinois.com, there's a donate button in the top right. Click on that into our Act Blue, and we deeply appreciate your support. I spent 5 years training Democratic state and local candidates on running more strategic campaigns. So I can guarantee you every dollar will be spent really well, because I've spent a lot of years teaching people to better use their money. And that's why I believe we are going to win, because we're running a great grassroots campaign. So
Awesome.
come be part of it.
I also just wanna, I never pass up an opportunity to, criticize a policy in Illinois. We have something in, our state political level that allows people, if they donate, I believe it's above $100,000 to their own, so we have a cap. So, like, if I were running
Yeah.
as a mom, paying for camp and trying to, like, make 2 car payments, um, I would not be able to contribute $100,000 to my campaign. So I have a limit of, if it's under 100,000, how much I can basically self-fund myself. If I can get over $100,000, then I quote blow the caps, and then I can give myself an unlimited amount of money. So who does that benefit? Um, Heirs and
Yeah.
independently wealthy people. So then who is sitting in an overwhelming majority or overwhelming outsized representation in our state assembly? People who are able to self-fund. So
Yeah.
some of these races, a person might be able to like raise 20, 30, $50,000 and give themselves, the under the amount. And so, altogether, but if they can loan themselves over $100,000 or give donate to their campaign over $100,000, then the rules don't apply to them. Like,
It's lunacy.
it's
It's such bad
madness.
policy. Yeah, if you can give yourself over $100,000, then you can give yourself anything, and anyone can give you anything. I mean, talk about stacking the deck
Oh, that's
against
right.
working
Then
people.
there's no personal caps?
Yes, yeah. So there's no personal cap, and once you give yourself $100,000, then you can give yourself anything, and anyone can give you anything. So,
You
I
guys,
would really like to
that
change this when
not
you talk about how
madness.
yeah, how big money, really influences our politics, and I think we would have such a better system that would allow more diverse, voices of working people, because, we've I've worked really hard, and like I said, we've had 3, um, hundreds of people contribute. 550 people more than that contribute. So, we're getting there. I think, I feel like in a good position because we don't need to match this person dollar for dollar because people respect our involvement in our work. But it's going to be a close thing, and your dollars go a long way. And I have other friends who, maybe didn't I don't know, that are also great candidates and, are really having trouble, and I just think, yeah, that's not we really need to change that system so people can't just buy these seats, and, like, if you have a cap, which is $7,000, that should be the cap, and maybe it should be lower than that, but, like, that should be the cap. It shouldn't be a cap unless you're wealthy, and then you don't have a cap, and you can do whatever you want.
It is. I remember a friend of mine looking into running for office, primarying perhaps an incumbent,
Mhm.
and we were like, "Wait, so if you're just extremely personally wealthy, the rules don't apply to you." Like, that's a made up rule that's written down, and, like, how
Literally.
anybody can justify that, and that's something that we could repeal with enough, like, fighters and non-self-funders in Springfield. We could change that. We don't need to wait for federal campaign finance
That's
reform.
right.
We can do that at the state level. So let's go get that done because it's
Yes,
madness.
I'm really living it in a way that is like, "Alright, we gotta change this.
Yeah.
This is nuts." Yeah,
And
but,
I also totally forgot that then that meant nobody else has caps. So, like, him, his family members, a couple rich friends
yeah, yeah, exactly, and
can
that's
give,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then, you're
They
really
have a lot
not.
of oil money that is in the and that is going in for this person, so it's, yeah, no, yeah, eh, I always am gonna believe in a grassroots campaign. I believe our grassroots campaign is gonna win, but we do need to change some structural things, that really, make a more fair system.
Yeah, talking about the sky is gonna be my new hyperfixation. Um, then talking about all the, incredible things that you are going to do for the state of Illinois. Paul, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for doing this work. As I said, it gives me so much hope. It can give you a lot of hope too. Plug in with a local campaign. You really start to feel like these are your
Yeah,
neighbors. This is somebody that is like you, lives near you, and is doing everything in their capacity, is doing the work that's in front of them. So,
it's so
visit
true.
paulforillinois.com, get involved. March 17th is the primary, and, I'm
And
also
that's just I'll just also plug and our office is right across from Ann Souther, so come by, that's 906 Belmont, like, again, yeah, just let's be together, and let's have fun together. Being involved in a state rep campaign is fun because we need everything, and I'll say yes to any good, fun, creative organizing idea, like, we're gonna do a kids concert coming up, like, we just, like, let's just do creative organizing, and so,
Oh,
whatever
fun.
your idea is to
Okay, well,
engage your
tell me when
network
the
or
kids
ours,
concert is.
join
I'll
in.
I'll bring my
Alright,
kids, and
good.
we got a lot of moms in my audience.
Yeah.
Um, Paul, you've earned the Liz Minnella endorsement. Anyone
Woohoo!
can go to sway.co/Liz Minnella. You can type in your address, you can pull your ballot so you can see if Paul is, gonna be on your ballot. And yeah, honored to have you. Let's go fight and win.
Thank you, Liz. You're a rock star. Thank you for all you do
Appreciate it.
organizing us in Illinois. Appreciate you and appreciate everyone who joined.
Paul Kendrick, March 17th. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.